Hello, friends. Welcome to Coding Garden. Welcome to Web Security Wednesdays. Today we're going to be learning about HTTP intercepts and other things with Burp Suite. This is a live stream, though, so if you're arriving when it's not a live stream, be sure to check the description so you can skip ahead to the main content. In the meantime, we're going to hang out in the waiting room, so I will see you soon. Hello, friends. Welcome to Coding Garden. Welcome to Web Security Wednesdays. Today, we're going to be learning about a thing called Burp Suite. And this allows us to do HTTP intercepting. So we can essentially pause an HTTP request or response in progress, modify it, and hack websites. So that's the plan for today. Welcome in, everyone. I got a new setup. You can see my desk. I'm not wearing a hoodie today. No, all my hoodies were not clean. So, but yeah, I got a new setup. You can see my desk. You can see when I'm looking at my laptop. Let me know if everything looks okay and sounds okay, because things are different today. Another thing we're going to be doing or using is something called Kali Linux. So for the past few learning to hack streams, we'd been using an OS called Parrot OS. Because this is the one they recommend on Hack the Box. And it was pretty cool. It has a bunch of built-in hacking tools, very similar to Kali. Kali was the one that I was familiar with. But I went ahead and set that up locally. So today we're going to be using our Kali virtual machine to learn about Burp Suite. That's the plan. Yeah. And so to learn about it, I'm actually just literally going to be going through the tutorial on Portswigger, which is the company that makes Burp Suite, because they also have like labs and little sites you can spin up to try and hack. So as we go through the tutorial, we'll be able to spin up a lab, and it will have a specific vulnerability that we'll be able to exploit using Burp Suite, which is the plan. Oh, nice, Avi. Yeah, Avi has a ton of Chrome extensions. If you want to link your portfolio, Avi, I'm happy to share it. Because yeah, Avi has made a bunch of Chrome extensions, and well, they work across various browsers, including one that will automatically redeem your points on Twitch if you leave it running. Yeah. YouTube downloader, YouTube Auto HD, Twitch channel points bonus collector. Yeah, Vittorio, and we'll talk about what that is. But yeah, it's in a way we are creating our own man in the middle to mess around with websites. Now, I don't think you would necessarily use Burp Suite as, I mean, maybe you could use Burp Suite as like a man in the middle to like do your own attacks on other websites, but it's mainly about attempting to exploit like client-side vulnerabilities of sorts, right? So if a website has, I guess this is just one example, we're going to learn more, but let's say a website has validation on an HTML form with some HTML attributes, like in the simplest form, like they have like the required attribute or whatever else. You could use Burp Suite to make a request to that page, modify the HTML to remove all of those required attributes, and then it would load the corresponding page in your web browser. That's just one like simple example. There's other things you can do as well. And that's because I control the requests that are being made. That's why it's much harder to do some sort of man-in-the-middle attack because of things like SSL and encrypted network requests and things like that. Like it'd be very hard to do. We are in control of everything and are attempting to exploit sites that only maybe have client-side security, that kind of thing. That's the plan, anyways. Let's welcome everyone in, and then we'll get started. I've already, like I said, I already have Kali set up. I've already downloaded Burp Suite. We're just going to go through the tutorial that talks about what it is, and then we'll go from there. I know there is a try hack me Burp Suite room. I think it's this one. And we potentially could look at this, but Portswigger has really good tutorials and docs and labs to do, so we might just stick with this website for today. Yeah, in a way, and I think, so yeah, we'll talk about this as well, but like, honestly, not honestly, they are. The dev tools in your web browser are a way of inspecting a website and modifying things, but obviously, this only works on your local machine. I think that's a good comparison to make. The kind of things we're going to be doing with Burp Suite today are similar to how you would open up the dev tools and like modify something. But with Burp Suite, we're going to be able to actually like pause the HTTP request in progress and also potentially the response in progress and change it up. Yeah. Cool. All right. Like I said, let's say hello to everybody. Let's welcome everyone in, and then we'll get started. Oh, and I made it. I'm no longer, I mean, I technically am running late, but we're here. Also, can you hear me all right? My microphone is like further away than it usually is. But let me know. Do I sound okay? Do I sound normal? Do I sound like I normally sound? Mic is good? Sounding great? All right, thanks, Rug Matt. Thanks, Drunk Time Lord. What's up, Daddy Ray? Welcome in. All right, let's say hello to everyone. If you would like me to say hello, and We Red says, can hear you perfectly. Appreciate that. If you'd like me to say hello to you, you can say hi, hello, hello, hey, yo, cheers, greetings, hi, yes up, what's up, morning, afternoon, evening, howdy, good day, coding hi-yo, vohio, or boga hey. Honestly, we should add, what's the one on Twitch? Is it hi guys? Or hey guys? Yeah, hey guys. We should add hey guys to this list. Oh goodness. What just happened? I think I lost my chat app. Give me a second. Rough start to today. Rough start. Vanished. Yeah, give me a second. Wait. I thought I went over here. There we go. All right, let's try again. And then I need to do this. Free the bugs. Let's see. All right, let's see if I can modify this. Here, hey, voice. All right, I think we got it. Let's go back in time, back to this earlier today when Mark Boots, an hour ago, was the first to say hello. Welcome in, Mark Boots. Good to see you. What's up, America 2050 and Arion and Millen and Demerka and Eddie? What's up, Umhek and PS Qual? Good to see you. What's up, Drunk Time Lord and Pranajal and Limotes and Vittorio and Amitabh and Matt? Good to see you. What's up, Coding and Gaming and Nate Codes? Good to see you. Shout out to Nate Codes. I don't know if I've ever even shouted Nate Codes out. He's been hanging out a lot here recently. And I don't know how recently you've streamed either, but go. I'm not. How am I not following? I'm sorry. I'm not following you, Nate. I know that you stream. Let's see what they were doing recently. Learning Cloudflare pages and workers and functions. Nice, nice. Yeah, definitely go check out Nate Codes. All right, what's up, Rugmat and Toddy and Avi and Fob and One Line of Me and Daddy Ray and Danny. Good to see you. And Emmanuel, hello. What's up, Lamine and Adham and Zardi and Anonymous 1221. What's up, Kathane and Nero or Nero? Welcome in, everybody. Good to see you. And Fallen Learns, hello. Good to see you too. Hello, hello. Let's do it. Let's jump right in. So I have a place ready to take notes. Remind me to take notes if I stop taking notes because I want to get better about taking notes and such. Let's get into it. What's up, Britt? Welcome in. Yeah, I did the Denver Script meetup last night. Actually, I don't think I even mentioned my my who I was or my channel, but I guess it's easy to find me on the interwebs. But yeah, if you're in the Denver area, we do a monthly meetup. And last night was fun. I called it a round table. But basically, I had a bunch of topics, and then we just chatted, and we passed the microphone around to people in the rooms to share things or ask questions and stuff like that. So if you're in the Denver area, definitely check us out. Cool. Oh, okay, good call. There's several links I need to add about like the full stack type safety stuff. I'll add all of that later tonight. Cool. Let's jump into Burp Suite. So they describe themselves as a comprehensive suite of tools for web application security testing. This tutorial is going to allow us to download it, install it, and do some basic intercepting. So that's what we're going to do. I already have it downloaded. Over on Kali, I actually just did sudo apt install Burp Suite. And so the Kali is Debian based. And so you can install Burp Suite just like that. And then once you have it, you can launch it. Oh, for sure, yeah, and we have more meetups coming up. We want to do more like community events too. So yeah, good to hear it, Komin Kakon. So yeah, I'm telling you right now what Burp Suite is. It lets you intercept HTTP requests and also like create a web proxy to inspect network requests and different things like that. So we're going to start it up. All right, we have it. Now the tutorial will tell us how to use it. So we've downloaded it, we've installed it, and let's go. So in this tutorial, we will use a live, deliberately vulnerable website to learn how to intercept requests with Burp Proxy. This is worth mentioning. You should only do this on websites that you have permission to do this on. Anything else is potentially illegal, depending on where you live in the world and the rules and the laws around how you use hacking tools and attempt to hack websites. So we're doing this on deliberately vulnerable websites. If you're going to be doing this on a site that you don't own, you should have permission to do it. Okay. So Burp Proxy lets us intercept HTTP requests and responses sent between Burp's browser and the target server. This enables you to study how the website behaves when you perform different actions. We're going to see this in action, but the idea is, like, when you're using a web browser and you go to github.com, that makes an HTTP request, travels across the network, and thank you, Chief Mustardo. Thank you for the Prime. Yeah. And that HTTP request gets sent across, and then there's an HTTP response. The computer receives the HTTP response. Eventually, it alerts the app that it has that HTTP response, and then your web browser will actually then render out the page itself. But what Burp Suite will allow us to do is intercept that. So the moment the HTTP request starts, if we're in intercept mode, Burp Suite is going to pause, and it's going to say, hey, the browser just tried to make this request. What do you want to do with it? You can modify the headers, modify the request body if it's like a post request or something like that. You can do all kinds of things. And so that's what we're doing. We're basically pausing what happens when someone is like using a web browser. So here we go to proxy intercept. We click this, and now intercepting is on, and then we can open their built-in browser. Burp browser is not available in this execution mode. I don't know what that means, and I'm gonna have to fix that. Let's Google this. Burp Suite, Burp browser is not available in this execution mode. Yeah, and actually, let me link the tutorial that I'm doing, so you can follow along if you'd like to. Yeah, it's this tutorial. Yeah, this is the one that I'm using. We might have to launch the jar, using the standalone jar. Yeah, this is the issue. I'm running Kali ARM64. Okay, so if you get this when you're using Burp Suite inside of Kali ARM64, it's because the version of Burp Suite doesn't come with the embedded browser. Install the ARM64 version from their website. That's what I will do. All right, so we're going to take a step back. I'm going to uninstall this. And then we'll just install it from the website. Is it remove? How does Debian work? There we go. Yeah, and I guess one thing to note is there are different versions of Burp Suite. The Community Edition is free to use. I do believe, like, if you're a corporation or whatever else, like if you're a company that like hacks professionally, then you probably need to purchase the professional edition. We're just learning. So yeah, I've never found that's actually really funny. I don't think I've ever gotten help from LinkedIn before. But let's see. I mean, honestly, they're just telling us that we need to, yeah, Mac OS, Apple Silicon, but actually I'm not Linux ARM. And will they give us the... Because it's not x64, it is Linux ARM. Let's see. Cool, and then they're giving me this shell script that I will need to execute. It is ARM64, cool. I'll need to execute this shell script. I trust this download. We can look at the actual URL, like, this is coming from the Portswigger CDN. Portswigger is the company that owns Burp Suite. You should not run random shell scripts that you download off the interwebs. But I'm willing to run this. First of all, I'm inside of a VM, so if anything bad happens, I should be all right. But I'm going to give this thing executable privileges, and then we're going to run it, which will download it and install it, I guess. Here we go. Welcome to the Burp Suite Community Edition Setup Wizard. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Why not? It could do really bad things. Like this shell script, right now it's running in the context of my user account. I'm not technically the root user, which actually, I don't know if it needed to be run under sudo. It might fail if it doesn't have the right permissions, but especially if you're running some remote script under root privileges, it could take over your machine. It could install malware. It could do a lot of bad things. All right, now, there we go. So we have Burp Suite Community Edition. Love to see it. Okay. Proxy. Intercept. Browser. Nice. Okay, we're in. Yes, well, actually, no, it wasn't. I don't know why. Maybe there's a specific setting during the Kali install, but the version I downloaded and installed did not have Burp Suite on it, and so I installed it from apt. But here we have the Burp Suite browser. So this isn't, actually, I have no idea what it's based on. It looks like based on the icon, it's actually based on Chromium. So this is a custom version of Chromium that they've integrated with their app so they can intercept the HTTP requests. But this browser, now anything that happens here, like, again, let's go to github.com/codinggarden. Anything that happens inside of here, Burp Suite pops up and says, hey, there is a request in progress. What do you want to do with it? So we could forward it, we could drop it. I have no idea what these options are. Maybe we want to forward. We want to let it happen. But we're gonna learn. We're gonna learn what all this means. Yeah, and like Killer is saying, I guess you might have a dedicated physical machine that you use for hacking, but having a VM is nice because if you ever mess anything up, you can always go back to before you messed up. What's up, Murdoch? Welcome in, and good to see you, Nick. And it's by Therial. Good to see you too. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But here's the other thing. Every single request the browser makes, Burp Suite is intercepting it. So like probably look at this. Like literally every single request to an API, every request for an image, we get to potentially change the request that's happening. There's probably an option to like just let everything through, but this is like if you had the network tab open inside of just like Chrome DevTools or Firefox DevTools, and every single request that's being made, you have a chance to do something with it inside of Burp Suite. So that's cool. All right. I'm gonna relaunch this and like actually follow their tutorial because I was getting a little ahead of myself. But Tex-Mex says, just wanted to say, really enjoy your vibe. It's always a pleasure to tune in. I appreciate that, Tex-Mex. Thanks for being here. Okay, so now let's follow the tutorial. We turn intercept on, we open the browser, and then it wants us to go, yeah, so their example here was to just go to portswigger.net and like watch what happens. So if I go here, Burp Suite pops up and it's like, hey, there is an HTTP request to the root of this server on port 443. And if we drop it, the browser will probably say something like, yeah, there we go. Request was dropped by user. So the browser wasn't even able to get the response. It literally just dropped the entire request. Cool. Yeah, and then this says click forward several times because every HTTP request that happens, you'll allow it to happen, and then the site will pop up. Okay, view the HTTP history. If you go to proxy HTTP history, nice. So this shows us every request that has happened. And we can look at the headers, request attributes, the hex version of the request. Very cool. All right, now let's modify some HTTP requests. So in this tutorial, you will learn how to modify an intercepted request in Burp Proxy. This enables you to manipulate the request in ways that the website wasn't expecting in order to see how it responds. Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm not logged in inside of my virtual machine, so I should be all right there. But thanks for the tip, Fallen Learns. Yeah. Oh, nice, Avi. Yeah. Another way to use Burp Suite is in a similar way that you use the network tab inside of the DevTools to just inspect like what requests is a website making when you load it. That'll allow you to potentially find like undocumented APIs and other stuff like that. What made me decide to invest more time in web security? I've always been interested in it, and I think I also want to raise awareness of it because a lot of web devs don't necessarily think a lot about security, and if they're already watching me because they're interested in my web dev stuff, maybe now they'll be interested in security too. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so now we're going to use one of their deliberately vulnerable websites known as a lab. Let me log in really quick. But you'll see in the tutorial, they have this link here. If you go to this link, this is basically a challenge for you. They describe the situation, and then when you click access the lab, that's actually going to launch an instance for you. So let me log in. I haven't used Beef, no, and I also I've only dabbled with Metasploit. Those are things that I want to explore in the future as well. I do believe, yeah, you can run Burp Suite directly on your Mac. Yeah, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be on Linux or Windows or inside a VM. You could be running it directly. All right, I'm in. So I've logged into PortSwigger, and now I can access this lab. And so when you click that, that's actually going to launch a site specifically for you to do the hacking against. That it lives in the cloud. So clicking this will launch basically like a website that is vulnerable, and then we can attempt to hack it. So yeah, it's this little web shop that has items that you can like add to your cart, and you can look at your cart to see what's in there, and you can check out. And so this is like a purposefully vulnerable website that we're now going to attempt to hack and inspect using Burp Suite. So we have the lab, we launch the site, and then we want to log in. So if we go to my account, we'll log in with the username Wiener and the password Peter. Okay, great. And I have $100 of store credit, which is awesome. Now what? Find something to buy. Click home to go back to the home page. Select the option to view the product details for the Leet leather jacket. Look at that. Study the add to cart option. So now I'm going to start running this inside of Burp Suite. So I'm actually going to pull this URL over here. And in the Burp browser, we will inspect the site here. And so for right now, I'm going to turn intercepting off. So the browser will just like load the site. Yeah, so the site fully loads. And then what they want us to do is inspect what happens when we add this to the cart. So if I click add to cart, ideally, not ideally, but in most situations, that's going to make some kind of HTTP request that puts the product into your cart, especially if they want to keep track of your cart. So that if you log in on some other site, I have to turn the drop game off. I appreciate you all, but yeah. So if you log in on some other site, in some other computer, you'll still have your cart status saved. So when we click add to cart, let's see, I did not have intercept on, so let's go back. Look, when people do silly things, it ruins it for everyone else. So think about what you did one way to be. All right, we're going to turn intercept on, and then we're going to add to cart. Fascinating. So it intercepted a ping. So for whatever reason, this site is pinging. Oh, WebSockets. Wow. I wonder if I can disable WebSockets. Oh, goodness. Is this okay? Here's the post request. So now, oh, good call, MSSQ. Yeah, if we don't need intercepting on, we can still see the requests that happen. Yeah, that's a good call. But we can see right here that it's making a post request with this data. So it has product ID, where we're going to be redirecting to, quantity, and price. So if the price is coming from the client side, that's bad news. That means we could potentially change the price of this thing. So yeah, let me turn intercepting off and then look in the history. So yeah, we can see there was a post request to /cart, and we can see all of the data that was sent. Great. Study the intercepted request and notice that there is a parameter on the body called price. Modify the request. Cool. So this wants us to actually intercept it and modify it. So let me see if I can figure that out. I'm curious if we can turn off WebSocket intercepting, because WebSockets, they're going to be getting called over and over again. And that is really cumbersome whenever I'm intercepting the requests. But let's see. Let's remove it from our cart. Settings and then WebSocket. Okay. Oh. Well, no, we're not intercepting. We are intercepting? Some kind of bug. Yeah, because it's intercepting. Okay. I just want to go to my cart. Let me go to my cart. Okay. Maybe the site is just slow. Maybe I thought it was being intercepted, but the site is just slow. It's also possible that somebody else has copied this URL and they're like pinging that server, which is making it really slow, and it makes it so that I cannot mess with it. All right, let's try again. We're gonna go home. We're going to view the details of the jacket. Yeah, it's Elite jacket for $1,337. And now I'm going to turn intercepting on, and then I'm going to add it to cart. And thank you, Corn Shop. Thank you for the Prime. Okay, so this intercepted that post request, and now we can modify the body. So we're going to change the price to be $0. What do they want us to do in the tutorial? They want us to change the price to $1. Cool. So we're modifying the request in progress. The browser just made that post request, and before it's even left my computer, we can change the body of the request. And then now we continue it on. There's that WebSocket stuff. And now, if we look at our cart, so I'm going to turn intercepting off. We're going to go look at our cart. And it's in the cart for 1 cent. So that's awesome. We're going to we changed the price of a thing just by modifying the outgoing request. So yeah, now if we ultimately, and Shirkum, thank you for the Prime. Yeah, it's 25 months. It's a long time. But ultimately, this may or may not work depending on a site that you're trying to hack. The way that we know if it really worked is if it lets us actually place the order. So if we place the order, I guess I wasn't logged in. We'll log in. Now I can go to my cart. I can place order. Look at that. We got a $1,300 jacket for 1 cent. So that's awesome. But that's the basics of HTTP intercepting. Basically, we can change the outgoing request before it even leaves our computer. And this is especially bad on websites that only do this kind of like client-side validation. Like the way that you would fix this is you don't accept the price from the client side, right? The way you would fix this is on the back end is you would look up the price when someone adds something to their cart, not accept the price from a post request, because that's people could set the price to anything. So yeah, that's great. All right, setting the target scope. Next one. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to set the target scope for your work. This is not possible with HTTPS. In our scenario, it is because we're this is running on our computer. And the way that Burp Suite's browser works is they have a like a locally self-signed CA certificate. So you can just browse the web but still be able to intercept HTTPS traffic because it's all self-signed. So like you could go, like, you shouldn't use the browser built into Burp Suite for like normal web browsing, but normal browsing of the web still technically works. But you'll notice that like it's not a secure connection because it's being proxied through Burp Suite, which has set up its own self-signed certificate. So yeah, this wouldn't work if you were trying to do this to someone else or to like some other computer, unless you somehow got them to install your own self-signed certificate. And that gets into like hacking of HTTPS. But the reason this works is because Burp Suite has set its own certificate, so it's actually even able to do this on HTTPS websites. But yeah, and what's up, Finder the Icewing? Welcome in. When PayPal first started, their buy with PayPal had the price hidden in a tag. Yeah. Wouldn't the request from Burp Suite to the server have a valid cert? This gets into the details of how TLS works that I do not know. but ultimately, the handshake goes through the self-signed certificate on this machine that doesn't complain if the certificate wasn't if the certificate is self-signed and doesn't come from a CA, like a certificate authority. Potentially, Pranjal, like there is a way for a website to make sure that the incoming requests are using a specific type of certificate. But again, that's getting beyond my my knowledge of this stuff. But yeah, I think if a site implemented that, potentially it wouldn't work with Burp Suite, but there might be other ways to get around it as well. All right, next one. Actually, will this tell us that we solved? Yeah, so we solved this lab. Very good, very good. Information disclosure in error messages. This lab's verbose error messages reveal that it is using a vulnerable version of a third-party framework. To solve the lab, obtain and submit the version number of this framework. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I showed that we can load HTTPS websites inside of their browser. Yeah, we can do that. So like I said, we can go to GitHub, any site you can load any site into this. I would guess if we tried to go to like a bank, they probably have certificate pinning. And will this site actually load? The site still loads. So, yeah. But again, it has to do with the fact that we're using self-signed certificates. I'm no longer going to talk about that stuff because let's just suspend our disbelief and know that the browser in Burp Suite lets us do this kind of stuff. All right. All right. So we have a new site to hack. We're gonna open the browser. Interesting. you all get fixated on the silliest things. I guess it's not silly, but I don't want to spend the time learning about that right now. Right now, we're learning about Burp Suite. Okay. Browse the site and then study the HTTP history. So yeah, we visited the website, and then if we look in Burp Suite under HTTP history, we can start to see all of the requests that were made. Yeah, study federal policies. Study as, yeah, okay. Let's see. I think I want to clear this and start from scratch just so there's not a bunch of extra stuff. Right-click, clear history. Thanks, MSQQ. Awesome. So now it's blank. I'll refresh the site. It's happening. Cool. Yeah, so it actually only made 2 requests. To get the homepage, and then the header has some stuff so that they can know that someone's still using the site. To make this easier, click the header and column until the requests are sorted in descending order. Yeah, okay, good. I see. So now if there was still history, we would have seen the most recent requests at the top. Okay, cool. Now set the target scope. If we right-click this and then say, what was it, sitemap? Add to scope. You have added an item to the target scope. Do you want Burp Proxy to stop sending out-of-scope items to the history or other Burp tools? Answering yes will avoid accumulating project data for out-of-scope items. Yeah, so in this case, we're not going to get stuff for other websites. Like if I go to GitHub or something like that, it's not going to show up here. Only the scope of this domain. I think 101 is used a lot in WebSockets. I actually don't know what it is. HTTP 101. Switching protocols. Yeah, so if you're being upgraded from HTTP to WebSockets, or it's like something like that, because the initial like WebSocket handshake might actually happen over HTTP, and then it switches to the WebSocket protocol. So yeah. Okay. Filter HTTP history. Click on the display filter above the HTTP history and select show only in scope items. Filter. that one. So show only in-scope items apply. There we go. Now it will only show the things for the site that we're looking at. Cool. If you continue to browse the target site, notice that out-of-scope traffic is no longer logged in the sitemap or proxy history. Nice. Nice. So yeah, we can go to other places, and it's not going to be logged because we've targeted our scope to just that site. Great. Yeah, what's up, Roga? I wish I knew more about WebSockets. I need real-time update of data in my current side project and don't know where to start. I do know that Vercel doesn't like my real-time updates. Vercel isn't long-lived. I think that's the one thing to know about WebSockets is that they require a server to be running all the time because any client is going to have a persistent connection to that server in order to receive those WebSocket events or receive like server sent events, which is another way of doing real-time. So that doesn't work with serverless because serverless functions will spin up and then they spin back down. And so you can't maintain a persistent connection. So things like, I think fly.io or like render, they allow you to create a long running server. And then from there, you could set up WebSockets. Yeah. The other option is to use some sort of like platform as a service. So like if you're using like Supabase, they have a real-time client that you can use in your app. Yeah. Render goes down. So yeah, maybe fly.io. You'd have to find a service that lets your server stay up. Yeah. In order for Supabase to work, you need to use their client-side library. That's how you would get the real-time updates. Yeah, because you couldn't be listening in server-side code because the server-side code spins down. Yeah. All right. In this tutorial, we'll use Burp Repeater to send an interesting request over and over again. This lets you study the target website's response to different input without having to intercept the request each time. Cool. This makes it much simpler to probe for vulnerabilities or confirm ones that were identified. That makes sense. So like in the previous example, when we were adding to the cart, we could potentially see that request to add to cart and then replay it over and over again to see how the server responds. Cool. So yeah, in the previous tutorial, you browsed a fake shopping website. Notice that each time you access a product page, it sends a GET request with the product ID. So let's see, let's navigate around. A giant enter key. Cool. These are really cool, actually, if you haven't seen them. They plug in over USB and you can like hit it and it'll do return. Sarcastic 9-ball. Cool. So we've clicked around a bunch. And now we can see all of those requests. And so, for example, a GET request to get product by ID pops up here, and we can inspect it. We can see the request query params like product ID, etc. Right-click on any of those and click Send to Repeater. Ooh, right-click, Send to Repeater. Repeater. Fascinating. So now we have a little tab that represents this one request, and we can send it. Waiting. Cool. So honestly, Repeater feels like Insomnia or Postman in that each one of these tabs lets us work with a specific request, but we can pre-populate it with some requests that we intercepted, which is pretty cool. All right. Send the request, view the response. We did that. Testing different input. Now, resend the request with a different input. Yeah, so here's where we mess with it and change the product ID to be something weird. Here we go. What about a cron that will send a request on an interval to prevent it from spinning down? That also won't work because with serverless, you potentially have multiple instances all running instead of just one. So that runs into the issue with like having WebSockets on your backend that would need like some sort of pooling or collecting to make sure that if you have multiple backend servers running, you're still getting all of the WebSocket messages that are being sent and received. I've done a lot of stuff on WebSockets in the past. If you check out on my YouTube channel, I'm trying to think if I probably, yeah, I do think I covered the basics of WebSockets in like a really old one. Yeah, this Noob Quest from 5 years ago. But I used to do pair programming with like a complete noob programmer. And I do believe maybe he was too beginner for us to even talk about long-running servers or like server pooling and stuff like that. But we've talked about this stuff before. Okay. But yeah, regardless of all that, it worked. So you'll notice we actually got a Java stack trace in the response, which is awesome. So we sent something that wasn't a number, and the server just spit out a stack trace. And I'm guessing, yeah, so Apache struts, I think this is the version number. We have access to that right there. Let's see what it's looking for. Try sending unexpected input, study the response. Notice that the response tells you that the website is using the Apache struts framework. We did notice that. Cool. And so from here we can the solution to this is, hey, we found the vulnerable version. And so this kind of gets into the other aspects of hacking is, okay, let's say you've figured out how to trigger an error response from a server. You now have your you now have the version number of some backend software, and from there you could figure out and do some research. All right, Apache struts version 2.3.31. Are there any vulnerabilities in that version? And if there are, then you could potentially try to exploit those further. Cool. We solved it. Good job, everyone. I updated the calendar really late. I didn't update the calendar until like an hour before the stream today. So I don't know. I mean, that's probably the reason why it didn't pop up for you. Yeah, and so Philippe is saying, I can send anything and we hope the backend is valid. Yeah, so, I mean, if we want to talk about what you should, like, lessons learned here are you should handle unexpected inputs in your backend code, right? So, like, the backend code should have wrapped the parse int in a try-catch, and if that threw an error, then you don't dump a stack trace, you respond with like an error page and an error message on it. And so this is why we always validate user input on our backends, is we don't want to spit out stack traces and we don't want to send back unexpected responses. This is not yerba mate, this is Soylent. This is my breakfast. Cool. Fascinating. All right, running your first scan, pro users only. We're not using the pro version, so we won't be able to do this. This is cool to know, though. Like, there are open source tools for this. Like, one of the tools we've used before are like GoBuster, which is a tool where you point it at a website and it will just try, and then you also point it at like a word list, and it'll try every possible URL within that word list and basically map out a website and tell you what pages are available and stuff like that. I mean, technically it's almost 1 p.m. for me, but I didn't eat breakfast. So it's cool that Burp Suite has this built in. So I guess the difference here is that it's crawling. It's not necessarily brute forcing. I'm guessing Burp Suite will actually look at every single link on the website and kind of like map it out. So it would probably click all these links, keep track of that, click like these links, and then you could build out like a sitemap of all the possible places within the website. Cool. Crawl and audit. Wow, it detects all these issues too. cross-site scripting, SQL injection, open redirection. So this is why, or not why. This is why. Well, yeah, this is why like red teams and companies that are like security testing their own websites, they would want to use a tool like Burp Suite. So like if you build a website, you could run it through this tool, and it could potentially automatically find things that your site might be vulnerable to, and like give you some suggestions about what you should fix. And yeah, this is the crawling that happens that basically like clicks every single link and shows you all the pages on a site. Cool. All right. At this point, we have the basics. I thought there would be more, but maybe we jump into the cross-site request forgery labs, and we use Burp Suite to exploit them. Because over the past few web security streams, CSRF for cross-site request forgery, that has come up a lot. So that could be fun. I know that they have a section on cross-site request forgery. Let's just try this one really quick, because I think it wants us to use Burp Suite to do like specific things. So this lab's email change functionality is vulnerable to cross-site request forgery. To solve the lab, craft some HTML that uses a CSRF attack to change the viewer's email address and upload it to your exploit server. No, these are all completely free. So Portswigger has a bunch of free-to-access labs, and yeah, free-to-access labs where you can practice all of these things. They also have labs on like SQL injection and cross-site scripting and stuff like that. Let's see. The thing is, so I tried this one before, and it mentioned that there's a way to like generate a vulnerable site or a vulnerable web form using Burp Suite. How about this? Maybe we actually we'll look at the solution to see what Burp Suite is capable of. If they tell us in the solution that like we can generate a form that allows us to like modify the existing form. Let's see. And then we'll take a step back and we'll talk about what CSRF even is, if we can get this working. All right. So we have a little blog here. We can log in. Cool. And then this form is vulnerable to cross-site request forgery, I believe. And what that means is, so right now I'm logged in as this user, and I have this form where I can change my email. But because they're not using CSRF tokens, if this form was hosted on some other website, it would potentially allow us to change a user's email without like change an email on behalf of a user if we can get them to like submit a form. So yeah, let's look at the solution they tell us to do. Yeah, so this walks us through using Burp Suite. So open Burp's browser and log into your account. Yeah, and there's like an exploit server too. Fascinating. Okay. So back over here on Burp Suite, we at this point, I think I'm going to need to change the scope of my my logging, because right now it's there, and yeah, it has a different ID. So under the proxy, we need to remove the scope. Yeah, so remove from scope, and then under filter, stop filtering by in-scope items. And now when we visit this site, we're going to set the scope to be this new site. Cool. Site loaded, and now I'm going to set this to be the scope. So Wait, did it not work? I thought we removed from scope. Oh, we want to see the most recent request at the top, right? And then it should end with 35. My interceptor, I guess my interceptor doesn't need to be on. Logging out of scope proxy traffic is, okay, re-enable. That's what I wanted. Slow sites are hard to hack. I mean, it's one thing that if it doesn't respond quickly, then yeah, it's going to be harder. Yeah, harder. Okay, so we're going to use what we learned. We're going to add that to the scope. We'll say yes to this, and then now in the filter, we're only going to show in-scope items. Boom, look at us, we're learning. So now we can see the requests that were made on this site. We're going to go log in. But yeah, a site being slow is similar to like being rate limited in a way, where like an attacker can only make a certain number of requests so fast because the server is responding slowly. But that's at the detriment potentially of all of your users, because now the site is slow for every user on your site. How do you spell wiener? Is it W-I-E? Yeah, it is. Never. Okay, so we're logged in, and then what were they saying to do? Submit the update email form and find the resulting request in our proxy history. So yeah, if I update this to be test@test.com, after this, we should go back to the history and be able to see like that a post request was made. We potentially filtered on the wrong thing. Because this is only showing the header request. Do I have the right URL? Maybe because I selected the one with Academy Lab header, that was the only scope that got added. The head fell off. That's why he's headless. I still have the head. It's still there. Okay. Yeah, I think I had the scope wrong before. Yeah, I did. So now, because before it was filtering where the URL began with Academy Lab header, now it's filtering from the root. All right, so if I do this and click update, we should see some post request over here. Yeah, so the post request is made to my account change email, and we can see the request body, which just has the email value. And because this is a form submission and it doesn't have a CSRF token, this is very likely vulnerable to cross-site request forgery. All right. If you're using the Burp Suite Community Edition, use the following HTML template. So yeah, the idea here is we're going to create a form that submits to this same endpoint. But anywhere that this, if this form is loaded in the context of that user that is logged in, it's going to run that post request in the context of that user. So here they're saying, go to exploit server. We're then going to be putting a form on this site, and we want it to be this URL. So this is going to be a form that makes a post request in the same way that this website was making a post request to that endpoint. And here we have a hidden input where we're setting this to be anything we want. And when someone loads this page, it is going to submit this form. And if they were logged in on this website, it's going to change their email on this website. Yeah, and so, and I guess basically the way that this is set up is we have a way of uploading files that can then be loaded by someone else. So, like this, literally will be a website that we get the victim to go to. I spelled pwned wrong. So, right now, this is just like a blank website that like automatically submits the form. But you could imagine that this could almost be like a phishing attack at this point, where, yeah, and then it, yeah. So you got pwned, and then it redirects back to the site. And let's see though, it technically did submit, or I guess it was supposed to automatically submit the page. Okay, but if I store it, this basically creates a web page that has this content, and then let's see. If I go to the same URL within Burp Suite, like now I think I want to add this URL to the scope. So yeah, you can see when someone visits the exploit site, it then actually makes a post request to here. I think the main issue is it's encoded the @ sign, and I don't think it should be. How does the website know whose email to change? They don't. It's whoever clicks on it. Yeah, so I don't want to deliver it just yet. I want to make sure that it's like working as intended. And then I want to try to better explain what's happening here. If I can get it working, I'll explain what's happening here. But the idea is this would be like some sort of phishing web page where you know that some person has an account on this website, and let's say you want to potentially change their email so that way you can log in as them, and you already know they have an account here. You're potentially going to try and send them this link, because if they go to that link, simply just by visiting that link, the code behind the scenes runs the request that updates their email. And it would only work if they were already logged into this website, like in another tab, or like within the browser itself. So let's see this again. So now if we go here, okay, the site loads, it makes the post request. The post request says the redirect should be to this site, and so then we see they get redirected here. And you can see that the email actually did get updated. So the one thing I had to fix was the @ sign was URL encoded, but now that the value was sent correctly, it actually updates the email. So again, the way that we would exploit this is we would need to send this to our victim who's logged in on the other site, And when they go there, we're submitting a form in the context of that user, because the browser for form requests like this will just send all of the cookies across with the request. Now there are ways of configuring your backend to prevent attacks like this, and then also adding a token to every request that your backend server would validate to make sure things like this can't happen. But that's basically what is happening. Is this form is making the request to the site where the user is logged in, and the browser is sending all of the cookies along with it. And so because those cookies are sent across, that user is logged in, and we're able to update their email to whatever we want it to be. So yeah, this worked. Deliver. What if we use local storage instead of cookies, and we make our front end send those accordingly? That would prevent attacks like this, but then you have to worry about cross-site scripting. So if your site is vulnerable to cross-site scripting, and an attacker is able to execute scripts on the page, those scripts can access local storage. So it's a trade-off, right? Like if you know, or you're really sure that your site is not vulnerable to cross-site scripting, then it potentially would be better to use local storage, because an attack like this would not work, because this form on any other web page wouldn't be able to access local storage to like pull your token out of it. But there are better ways, I guess I would say, to still allow for forms, but not allow for a cross-site request, not allow for cross-site request forgery. Cool. I don't think it says we solved it. It says not solved. I'm back. Hacker got hacked. Cool. And Juicebox, thank you for the 7 months. Appreciate you. Cool. All right, so I attempted to deliver the exploit, but that didn't seem to work. We're back? Great. In this case, delivering the exploit is like sending a phishing email to a user to get them to click on that page. Let's see. The lab isn't solved, though. This lab might be broken. I don't know. Because I did restart the stream, and ad is going to start, so we'll just take a quick break while the ad is playing. Yeah. I'm going to start an auth system tomorrow for an admin panel in Angular and TypeScript backend. Any pointers? Use well-known libraries. Don't try to implement everything from scratch. Just use libraries that we know work really well for auth and stuff like that. Or use a hosted service. Did the ad start? Now I don't know. Okay. There we go. All right. Yeah, quick 3-minute break, and then we'll be back after the ads. Thank you, Eris is not Neil. Appreciate that. Cool, we're back. What's up, Murdoch? Who says, that Godot project I sent you the other day, I redid my method and now it's only like 12 lines of code as opposed to 200 and much simpler to work with. Yeah, I looked at the message you sent me, but I thought it was just an image. Maybe it didn't. Maybe the GIF didn't come across. But good to hear that it's working. I came across this cool server-free architecture. Everything is packaged in the front end itself. Never heard of it. Fascinating. All right, here's what I want to do. I'm actually going to go hop over to Try Hack Me, and they're going to teach us more about Burp Suite. The first few tasks are probably going to be pretty cumbersome because we already know the basics. But I guess I'm also interested in like using a different web browser. So I think like Foxy Proxy is like an extension you can add to Firefox, and that way you don't have to use Burp Suite's built-in browser. That could be interesting. So yeah, we'll just go through this, see if we can learn more about Burp Suite. And that is over here. So let's start. So what is Burp Suite? Yeah, we talked about it. Honestly, this is a good diagram though to kind of understand like what's happening when we're using Burp Suite, because essentially when it pauses a request, we get the option, or like when it intercepts a request, we get the option to modify it, to change it, to inspect it before it makes it to the web server, and then we can also modify it or change it on the way back. So we have like our client that's making the request. We intercept it. We can modify it before it gets to the server, and the server makes a response, and we can intercept and modify it before it comes back to the client. Yeah, and there are different versions. Like I said, we're using the community version. There's the pro version, and then also the enterprise one. They do mention that enterprise has an automated scanner. So, like if you're trying to make sure that the websites you build at your organization are secure, you could have the enterprise version running, and you could point it at your website that will flag whenever vulnerabilities get introduced or something like that. Yeah, so this is Burp Suite Enterprise. Ooh, cool. And then Burp Suite is frequently used when attacking web applications and what do they want there? What kind of applications? Hint. Fill in the blank is the hint. APIs? Oh, mobile. They're saying you can do mobile. Okay. There we go. All right. So yeah, we've been looking at the proxy, and we also looked at the repeater. We haven't looked at these other features like intruder, decoder, and compare and sequencer. So which Burp Suite feature allows us to intercept requests between ourselves and the target? That's going to be the proxy. Which Burp tool would we use to brute force a login? No idea. Intruder. So intruder allows for spraying endpoints with requests. It's commonly used for brute force attacks. So that's cool. Cool. All right, we're moving right along. We did install it. Good to go. And now looking at the dashboard. Yeah, so the other thing I guess you'll learn about potentially with the proxy settings is you could, if your mobile phone is on the same network as the computer that's running Burp Suite, you could configure your mobile phone to have a proxy that is the IP address of your laptop that's running Burp Suite. And so every request that your mobile phone makes would go through your laptop so that you can do this kind of intercepting and detecting of things. The other option is like you could have a what do you call it? A simulator running on the machine that you have Burp Suite running on. And in that case, I think you still might have to set up the proxy, which would be just the local IP address, so that every request coming from that device goes through Burp Suite. Yeah. Yeah, Passport has been around for a long time. I don't know if there's been anything modern that has like replaced it. I mentioned, so if we're talking about implementing auth in node.js, with Express specifically, yeah, Passport has been around for a very long time. I'd be curious to see, like, is it staying up to date? Yeah, I mean they had a release and a commit 2 months ago, so yeah. But there's another one called Grant, and this lets you do OAuth. This isn't as full featured as Passport. This specifically is for OAuth, but Passport has things like being able to implement local auth and stuff like that. Cool. So this is the dashboard. We have 4 quadrants. We have the program it runs on Windows and Mac as well. If you look at, I mean, I feel like this is just an ad for Burp Suite. It's not. I am not sponsored. I'm literally just trying to learn it. I know that this is an industry standard tool that a lot of penetration testers, red teamers use. But Yeah, it's supported a lot of places. Here, yeah. So if you look at the community edition, and then you go to here. This is all the stuff that they support. Also, any system that runs Java, you can download the jar, and then it'll just run with Java. Yeah, you don't. But if you download these are like the specific operating system executables. Yeah. Okay, so the task menu allows us to define background tasks that the Burp Suite will perform while using the application. In Burp Suite Community, the default live passive crawl task, which automatically logs the pages visited, is sufficient for our purposes in this module. Cool. This is interesting though, because you could do like on-demand scans, like scan every now and then to see what the response is and stuff. We then have event logs, issue activity, and advisory. This is the pro version only. Because I was like, what site is that? But yeah, the pro version has that, and then advisory section as well. Cool. What menu provides information about the actions performed by Burp Suite, such as starting the proxy and details about connections made through Burp? Event log, right? Great. Navigation, yeah, we were getting into this earlier. There's a lot in this program. It's the thing. There's so many things that it can do. We really have only seen proxy and repeater so far. So click each thing in the tab bar to switch between them. And then each one of these has subtabs. Yeah, so within proxy, we have intercept, HTTP history, etc. And then each one of these might have their own subtabs as well. If you prefer, you can detach them. Fascinating. And then we have keyboard shortcuts. So Control-Shift-D, Control-Shift-P. Nice. This will switch us to the proxy. What do they call it? Proxy tab is what they want. Ooh. We then have a bunch of options. Yeah, this is where in the options is where you can set up the proxy server too. So when this says, the fact this says proxy listener right here, this means we could configure external applications to run their requests through Burp Suite. We would configure the proxy to be in whatever other software or our operating system to be this IP address, and then all requests get routed through Burp Suite. In the settings window, you'll find a menu on the left-hand side. It allows you to switch between different types of settings. Yeah. Oh, cool. And then that's good to know is that within any given tab, when you click on it, it jumps to that settings section. Which category has a reference to cookie jar? It's the sessions category. In which base category do you find the updates subcategory? Under Suite. What is the name of the subcategory which allows you to change the key bindings for shortcuts? User interface hotkeys? Ooh. If we upload client-side TLS certificates, can we override these on a per-project basis? Yes or no? Yes? I guess, or no, is the answer. Oh, nay. Or yay. Cool. All right. Yeah, so we learned this earlier about turning intercepting on or off. By default, this proxy does not intercept server responses unless explicitly requested. That is good to know, yeah, because we've only been seeing in everything we were doing, we were only seeing outgoing requests but we didn't necessarily see the server response. And that might be something that we want to modify as well, because we could modify the server response to change what happens on the web page. So it's good to know that we can enable that. Very good. Yeah. Cool. So this machine is potentially the vulnerable one that we're going to attempt to hack. And so once it spins up, we'll have access to it from within inside our VM. I'll need to connect my VM to the Try Hack Me VPN. So let me do that. Moshiko, thank you for the bits with no message. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Okay, so our attack machine has spun up. I'm curious if it's just served on port 80. It is, yeah. So this is going to be the site we're going to attempt to hack using Burp Suite. They are asking us to set up Foxy Proxy. And so this is basically how we would get Burp Suite to be the proxy for some other web browser. But I think if I use the built-in Burp Suite browser, I don't need to configure this. Yeah, so this is basically allowing us to use Burp Suite through some other browser like Firefox, which I'm just going to use the built-in browser. But it is good to know that this extension exists, Foxy Proxy. So if you don't want to use the built-in Burp Suite browser, you could use Firefox and then install this extension. Yeah, I installed it on the virtual machine. So I'm running a Kali VM, and I have Burp Suite running inside of there, and then my VM is now connected to the TryHackMe VPN, so we can access this site and try to hack it. Okay, here we go. The Target tab in Burp Suite provides more than just control over the scope of testing. We have a sitemap, issue definitions, and scope settings. Take a look around the site. We will be using this a lot throughout the module. Visit every other page that is linked on the homepage, then check your sitemap. Okay, so we are going to turn, I guess if we look at our HTTP history, yeah, we can see every request that's made to this 10 dot address. So we want to look at every site, or every page. We can go to products, we can go to about us, and yeah, Burp is showing us all of those requests that we've made. What's up, Ducklekna? Good to see you. About 1, about 2. At this point, we're kind of doing the manual manual crawling of a website. Burp. What we learned earlier is Burp Suite Professional can do this automatically. Like, it'll go through and like literally click every single link on the site. But we're doing it manually for now. And what else? They have the privacy. They have the contact us. Ooh. And so now Burp Suite should have seen, yeah, Burp Suite has seen all of these requests. One endpoint should stand out as being very unusual. I mean, I don't know if unusual is the term, but like the contact form is like a potential attack vector. Like we could see how this works. Your message has been received, and we will get back to you shortly. Great. So yeah, but if we look in Burp Suite, we should have seen, yeah, this was a post request to /contact. How did it send the data, though? I don't even see a body. Was it in the URL? This is the post response. Well, even XHR would have a body. These here are the web browser Chromium making requests. Let's filter by only this now. Oh, messed that up, man. We want the scope to be the root of the site. So yeah. I'm just confused why we don't see the request body. Like we should see the data that was sent along in the contact here. Post. It's just not sending any data. Is the thing. It's a post request that doesn't send any data, which is really funny. I'm just going to open the DevTools here inside of Chromium, and we can actually look at this form. And my guess is there's like no name properties on this form. Yeah, so we have the form, but yeah, then their inputs don't have attribute name. They have ID, but they don't have name, like name equals, and that's the data that gets sent in a post request. So it's literally a blank post request. There is a ticket endpoint. How do we find it? Oh, maybe it's under support. Oh, okay. Here is an interesting endpoint. I didn't notice this before, but it's making this GET request, and there's our flag. Fascinating. And I'm guessing just the web page itself is like making that request as you load various things. But this is the interesting request. This is the flag that TryHackMe wanted us to find. But just by browsing around on the website, eventually the site made the request here, and then we can see the body of the response. Same thing happened with the create a ticket thing. It's like they didn't send anything in the fields there. All right, what's the flag at the unusual endpoint? It is that. You'd be surprised, me the JavaScripter. I would say, The vulnerability on this site, right now we actually haven't found any vulnerability on this site. The only thing we've done on this site is detected an interesting HTTP request and then found the body of that request. And this is applicable to any website that you look at because websites make a lot of HTTP requests. And if you kind of look at all of those requests that are made, you might find some interesting endpoints or interesting things that the page itself is requesting. So any site is vulnerable to that. Earlier, we were talking about cross-site request forgery, and there are a lot of mechanisms that can prevent that these days, and most sites that are built with more modern backend frameworks and modern techniques are not going to be vulnerable to something like that. But you'd be surprised. It's still, like, there are also a lot of old applications out on the web that were never fixed that might have vulnerabilities. No, I haven't done any bug bounties or anything really else hacking related aside from learning the basics on Hack the Box or Try Hack Me. Okay. We did it. We found the flag. What next? The Burp Suite browser. Yeah, this is what we were using. Very good. Scoping and targeting. Yeah, we already learned about this because we were able to scope it down. So add that to the scope. We did. And then we're only seeing traffic from that specific IP. Yeah. When intercepting HTTP traffic, we may encounter an issue when navigating to sites with TLS enabled. Yeah. This is what we were talking about earlier. So if you're not using the built-in Burp Suite browser, you would need to download the Burp CA certificate and add that to your list of CA certificates in the web browser that you're using. And this would make it so that Burp Suite can actually intercept HTTPS traffic. But if you are using something like Foxy Proxy, you would need to add this. And then, like, if you were, for example, trying to intercept traffic of a mobile app, you would need to install this CA certificate on the mobile device so that you can intercept HTTPS traffic. Yeah. Cool. All right, example attack. You don't need to unlink from the scope incorrectly added. You can change that in proxy settings. Oh, maybe, yeah, I'm completely new to it. But the whole scoping thing, I keep having to like unclick and reclick because if I add the scope for a sub URL, then it doesn't get the root. I don't know. But there is a ticket endpoint. So take a look at /ticket. Okay. Yep. In the real world, we'd test it for a variety of things. So yeah, we can. I see. We are going to bypass a client. That's really funny. We're going to bypass a client-side check using Burp Suite. So what they're saying here is if I were to try to put a script tag in here, you'll notice like every time I like even try to create a less than sign, there's some client-side code that's actually removing that. But if we intercept this, I'll turn intercepting on and I will, first we'll put some dummy data in here and submit it. But now because we intercepted that, we can actually change that email to be like a cross-site scripting attack. Like we'll actually put the script in there like this. This way, because that was only a client-side check, the site will now receive that, and potentially, if that gets rendered on the page, it'll actually run that script. So now within Burp Suite, I can forward it, forward that, and you can see that it actually runs that script. And that's because that was purely a client-side check. That was not a server-side check. Well, I guess in this case it was because the backend responded with that wasn't a valid email. But the fact that they loaded that value onto the page and actually rendered that script is what made it vulnerable. Cool. All right, last one. This was also very quick. I'm running out of things to do. All right, in the next module, we'll dive deeper into Burp Suite repeater. That could be interesting. Let's see. Yeah, but I would say we do understand. Yeah, look at us. Congratulations. We do understand the basics here. Let's see what's involved with this and go from there. But I might call it for today. I mean, this was a shorter stream, but I have learned about Burp Suite. People have asked me in the past, have I used it? Do I know how to use it? And ultimately, most of the intercepting I've done was with just the network tab in the browser. But being able to modify requests in progress or like in flight is actually really cool as well. Yeah. If I run out of things to do, I have a great idea. Well, let me know, Razorson. I can decide whether or not that's what I want to use. I'm using Kali Linux inside of a VM. So I downloaded the ARM64 ISO, and then I'm using UTM to emulate it. Actually, I'll link both of those things. So UTM is an emulation or a virtual machine app for Apple Silicon Macs. And then Kali is a penetration testing distribution. I'd be curious what this is going to want us to do. Because, yeah, like we are repeating requests and set up ESLint with Burp Suite. I don't think that makes sense to do. I guess, is that a joke? They're not related at all. Ah. So basically what they wanted to do here is intercept a request, modify the headers, and if you pass this header in, it will respond with a flag. So that's cool. Nice. And then this is something we did earlier where we like changed the ID to be from a number to something like a string, and then the server spits out a stack trace. And in this case, if you do that, the stack trace would potentially have the flag inside of it. Can the repeater do a denial of service attack? It wouldn't be DDoS, because DDoS is distributed denial of service, but I think, is intruder the one? Yeah, intruder's the automated one. This potentially could cause a denial of service if you configure this to send so many requests that it brings a server down. Yes, that is possible. Repeater, I do believe, is just like one request at a time. Ooh. Okay, so this one could be fun to do. This is mentioning it might have like a SQL injection vulnerability. Your objective in this challenge is to identify and exploit a union SQL injection vulnerability present in the ID parameter of the about ID endpoint. Fascinating. Yeah, and then this is a fun SQL injection though, like, because they actually just pass in a literal union statement. Because it's probably like ID equals variable, so ID equals 0, and then all of this stuff. And what's up, Boris? Welcome in. We're looking at a room here on Try Hack Me that deals with using Burp Suite, which is a HTTP proxy hacking tool. Cool. All right, let's see if we can do this one. I don't know if I'm able to skip around. If I can skip around, we'll do this one. Because this would be fun. Because we're going to use Burp Suite to see all the HTTP requests and then modify one of those requests to send a value that will be a SQL injection. So let's try. Gotta wait for the machine to spin up. Okay, the machine is up. Let's see. Can we access it? We can. Great. I'm going to make sure that we are only, or we're scoped to that address. So it's 2116. Turn off the filter. Yeah, and then we're going to scope this. So we'll add that to the scope and then filter by it. So this will only show requests, or it should have. Cool. So now we're only filtering on this site. And they are telling us if we look at the requests for about, so if I go to about and then look at a specific one of these, like about/2, we can then send this to repeater. So if I press Control-R, that took this request, and now it's available over here. And like I can modify it, I can resend it, get back the response. But this now allows me to work with that one specific request. Can we zoom the UI too? Let's increase the font size. Massive. This might make everything like really hard to see. Well, it doesn't increase this font size. That's unfortunate. I'm gonna bring it back down. Okay. Adding a single apostrophe is usually enough to cause the server to error when a simple SQL injection is present. Fascinating. So the request attributes, like in the path here, what they're saying is if we modify this path to just have a quote on it and then resend it, we get a 500 internal server error. Ooh. Ooh, do we see an error message? And then it's just spitting out the SQL from the backend right here. So, I mean, this is the contrived example, but we absolutely know this is vulnerable to SQL injection. So select first name, last name, profile link, etc., where ID equals 2. Great. But that tells us if we want to do SQL injection here, we can literally just pass in a number, space, and then whatever the rest of the query that we want. This also, I think we could fix it by passing 2 in quotes. So if we do both of them in quotes, it shouldn't error because that would be a valid SQL statement that now selects the user with ID 2. But by doing something like that, we then, I mean, this is just a really badly configured backend because it's just spitting out the SQL code. But now we know that it is vulnerable. Somehow I just switched desktops on Kali. There we go. I pressed the wrong button. Okay, so it's vulnerable. That's awesome. Now Now they're going to do a union query. So we're selecting where user ID is 0, and then selecting all of these things from the information schema of the table name people. Yeah, so we discovered that they are selecting from a table called people. And so we're going to issue a SQL query that will attempt to dump all of the information about that specific table to let us know what are the other columns that exist and stuff like that. So this is a SQL injection vulnerability that's just directly in the URL, which is fascinating. Let's go. I'm trying to see, did it output on the page? Yeah, so it output this little table, ID none, H2 none, none. What's up, Hugo? Welcome in. Yeah, so we successfully pulled the first column out of the table, which is ID. The page is only displaying the first matching pattern. And thank you, Hugo. Thank you for the resub. Now we group, yeah, so if we do a group concat, it's going to put all of the column names into that little field in the HTML. So request attributes. What kind of processor, Cane Farmer? You mean like a computer processor? A lot of times that's done with lower level languages like C or C++. But processor could mean other things as well. But look at that. We dumped out the rest of the column names. So now we have first name, last name, link, role, short role, bio, and notes. So notes is maybe a column that has like our flag inside of it. Let's see. Yeah, it's a safe bet that our target column is notes. Finally, we're ready to take the flag from the DB. The ID of the CEO is 1, and so we're gonna steal the flag from the CEO. So now if we update our SQL injection to pull notes from the people table where ID is 1, we should be getting back the CEO's notes, which potentially will be our flag that we're searching for here. Like a game console processor. That still isn't clear to me. Like, like you want to make a game? You want to, or do you want to make a new operating system for a game console? I'm still not clear on what you want to do here. But look at that. We sent that SQL injection, and then we pulled out the notes, which actually has the flag that we were searching for. So yeah, very good. That was a fun one. And so if you watched last week, we talked about SQL injection, and this is kind of combining the two concepts of figuring out what are the HTTP requests being made on a site, and then when we find a vulnerable endpoint, then we can try some SQL injection attacks against that endpoint. Yeah. Yeah, and that's okay, Cane Farmer. We just want to know, what do you want to make a game? Is that what you want to do? But what do you mean by processor? Cool. All right, I think that's it for Burp Suite. If there's any other thoughts or comments or questions or anything, we can explore a few other things, but this will probably be it for what we do today, aside from answering Cane Farmer's question and figuring out what they are trying to do. But this was a fun one. I honestly, at the end of, I don't know how long we've been live, like 2 hours, I feel pretty confident with Burp Suite. Obviously, there's a ton more to learn, but it is good to know that I can do this kind of thing. Like making a new game console for yourself. Like you want to invent the next Xbox or the next PS5. Is that what you're saying? I'll show you, Hugo. We really just looked at the proxy tab. Yeah, we really just did proxy and then repeater. We have not looked at intruder. And then we learned about the proxy tab and like how to intercept and how to filter on HTTP history and stuff like that. And by saying making a new console for yourself, like, do you want to build a gaming PC? Yeah, we did read about it though. It did say it can do what do you call it? Brute force attacks. Like, but it is cool to see. So if you found something in the proxy here, you could send it to intruder and then tell intruder to send multiple requests there. Like a Switch or a 3DS. So you want to build your own custom handheld gaming device. Is that what you want to do? But then the next question is, what games do you want to play on it? Do you also want to make the games from scratch? Yeah, that's going to be my suggestion. So if you look into this thing called the RetroPie, a Raspberry Pi is like a mini computer, and then RetroPie is an operating system you can run on the Raspberry Pi that lets you emulate all kinds of old video game consoles. It's just links to the homepage. The games come afterwards. Here's the thing. If you're starting with this level of like not really knowing where to even start, you probably want to play around with stuff like this to get the hang of like what's even possible. Because I guess if you're trying to make a platform, a complete device from scratch and then games from scratch, there's just so much you would have to learn. It's doable, but it is a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, something like RetroPie would be cool because you could put it on a Raspberry Pi. It can run. You can then emulate old games, and then if you want it to be a handheld device, there's a lot of different accessories you could potentially attach to the Raspberry Pi to give yourself like a little touch screen and then maybe like a gamepad or something like that. Yeah, or you could connect up a controller. I would say, yeah, but it kind of sounds like you just want to make your own console and your own platform, and like you don't want to use like existing types of like emulated systems. Like you don't want to use like a Game Boy Advance system or something like that. Yeah. I'm not saying you can't put in the hours. What I'm saying is right now, my understanding of your question is you are literally going to have to learn how to build an operating system and do like task scheduling. And then from there, you're going to have to learn how to build a game dev kit for this new platform that you've developed. And before that, you would have to learn hardware prototyping and basically like building a device from scratch that can like run these kinds of games. That might not be what you want to do, but that's what it sounds like. So I don't know. I think I am going to call it there. And this was fun. This has been something that I've wanted to learn for a while, so I'm happy that at least the basics of Burp Suite have been added to my tool belt. I'm going to head out of here. I will be streaming again on Friday. Plan for Friday is Try-Day Friday, and we're going to be doing Java Spring Boot. So on Friday, I'll be learning the basics of Spring Boot. I already know Java syntax. I don't really know like the Java ecosystem or like the libraries or built-in stuff there, but we're going to build some APIs with Spring Boot on Friday. That's the plan. And I mean, I can't. The drop game, the only way to fix it would be to either like, I guess there's multiple ways we could try and fix it. Yeah. Do I have experience with working in legacy systems like refactoring IT architecture? Not really. Most of my career I've been in software development. Early career I was in like help desk and fixing PCs and fixing issues and stuff like that, but I haven't really ever been involved with like the architecture of a like a legacy system. I mean, I have in the context of software, like taking an older system that's built on older stuff and like trying to make a newer system that still uses some of the older stuff, but like is a bit more modern? I don't know. What is your question exactly? But I'll potentially have to answer it in the Discord. So if you do have a question, hop over to the Discord. We have a help forum on there. I'd be happy to help you out. And then follow me over on Twitter. If you're not following on YouTube, I'd appreciate that as well. And if you're watching on YouTube and you're not following on Twitch, I would also appreciate that. And if you'd like to join us in the raid, head over to Twitch. Just click that link and you can join us in the raid. A raid is where we take all the viewers of this stream and send them over to some other stream. So if you are a sub, you can use this raid message. And if you are not a sub, you can use this raid message. And we're going to go on a raid. I don't know who we're going to raid, but whoever we raid, show them lots of love. Drop a follow if you like what they're doing. And I will see you all on Friday. So wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.